This is Robert Stack, and you're listening to the Unbelievers Podcast.
Hey there, Unbelievers. It's your trusty producer and soundboard engineer, Rob Oakey here.
I'm a wet huckleberry. Hell yeah!
That's me. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we were not able to record a new episode of the Unbelievers Podcast this week. I have to go out of town, so I'm just not going to be around, and we just couldn't make it happen. The schedule just didn't really line up. However, I thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to introduce you to a new show if you haven't heard of it yet. And the show is brought to you by the host of the Unbelievers Podcast, Russ Ryan and Drea Mora, and it's called Zona Del Silencio. And tonight, in lieu of a new episode of the Unbelievers Podcast, we're going to be listening to case number 000, Disorientation. And I don't know where this is going, but if you like what you hear, click the link in the description, give them a follow, and show them your support. The Unbelievers Podcast will be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode. So until then, continue to learn to unlearn everything you know.
We're here. This is the Zona Del Silencio. I'm Russ Ryan.
And this is Agent Drea Mora.
Hello, Agent Drea Mora. And these recordings are coming to you from the infamous Zona Del Silencio, or Zone of Silence for the English speakers. In each trip here, you and I, Drea, will be presented cases related to the strange and unusual, and our mission is to research the cases, observe the surrounding information, and disseminate its merit, all while here in the Zona Del Silencio. Is that a fair summation of why we're here?
I think so. I got this letter and everything. It sounds like that's all we have to do. I'm kind of worried that there's something else we're supposed to do, but I hope that's it. Yeah, we just have to research, observe, and disseminate, and hopefully get paid afterwards.
I don't know what pay is involved, and I feel like we should give a little backstory on who we are and how we came to be here. And so I will explain a little bit. Drea and I have been digital broadcasting for the last 3 years on a program that discusses the strange and unbelievable. And because of that, we were contacted by a group here about the prospect of being taken in as research agents for a media outreach wing that works near the Zona Del Silencio. And here we are. It was hard to pass on something that calls you an agent.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't even called myself that yet, but it's hard to pass up.
I immediately want that title. I am going to be Agent Mora. It sounds kind of too formal, but I like it. I hope that they take me as seriously as they think that I should be taken seriously. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, AD. That's a good initials. There we go. So where are we? Where exactly is the Zona Del Silencio? And we should explain a little bit about this. We are in an area of mountainous desert that is located between the states of Durango, Chihuahua, and Coahuila, Mexico. Did I say that
You
right?
did.
Coahuila?
Yes, Coahuila. Perfecto.
It is also known as the Mapimi Silent Zone because we are very close to the town of Mapimi. And it is called the Zona Del Silencio because, according to reports, in this area, electromagnetic transmissions cannot be received, radio does not work, compasses do not point to magnetic north, and the flora and fauna have abnormal mutations, which I can't speak of quite yet. This is our first day. This is kind of like orientation here in the Zona Del Silencio.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect because of that. I know that it was like I briefly looked into the Zona del Silencio. What was it? A couple of years back, I think we had mentioned it before, and I was really apprehensive. I'm like kind of scared, but so far I've seen lizards, normal, shrubbery, normal. I haven't seen anything weird yet.
Yeah, looking here. My first thoughts were, like, what a desolate place this is. Just to describe what this place looks like. But we'll get to that. And I want to talk about some of the things that were presented about this place. So this phenomena of the Zona Del Silencio, this was first reported in the 1930s by Francisco Sarabia? And he was a Mexican pilot who said that his radio had mysteriously failed to function while flying over the zone. And I got to ask, Drea, are you familiar with this pilot, Francisco Sarabia?
I mean, I wasn't before this whole thing, and I feel like I should know about him more. I think we're going to get to know him really well in the coming days.
Yes, and maybe I'm being a bit extra. I am excited to be a research agent. So when our first mission is to talk about the actual zone before we do this, I don't know. This was not in my file I was handed. I don't know why I got so fascinated with Francisco Sarabia. And the reason that his reports of radio failure here in the Zona were taken so seriously is because he was very, very famous in the 1930s. He was considered like the Mexican equivalent of Emilio Earhart.
Emilio.
No, he was, yes, Emilio Earhart. They would call him. That was a great name for him. So I was so curious about this. I had to know. So I found out that he was a very accomplished pilot. He held all these different speed records. He was like back in the 30s when you could get a record for doing anything, especially anything that was invented. Yeah, you could hold a record real quick.
Eating pickles, easy.
Sure, when pickles were invented, yes, they were speed pickle eaters, of course. But he was, he got to do actually something very cool, which is fly planes very fast and go very far. And he also operated an aviation school, and he was a pioneer of commercial aviation in Mexico. He was a big deal.
Oh.
But unfortunately, he met a tragic end following what would be his greatest accomplishment. Francisco Sarabia Tinoco was returning to Mexico City after setting a record flight time of 10 hours, 43 minutes for a flight between Mexico City and New York City.
Oh.
And on his way back, he is taking off from Bowling Field in his BG Racer. Or GB Racer, sorry. I get it confused with the BG. But he had his plane was, the type of plane was called a GB Racer, named the Conquistador del Cielo.
Wow.
And on his way back from making this record run from Mexico City to New York, he crashed in the Potomac River. He had only gained about 100 feet of altitude when his engine failed and the plane just dumped itself into the Potomac River and he drowned.
Oh my God. I mean, shit. At least you don't die in the fiery explosion, hopefully that didn't happen when you make impact, but to die from drowning out of that
seems worse.
It is. I think it's worse. That's one of my biggest fears. And you don't really think about that as a pilot, that you're going to drown.
That's why pilots don't fly over here. They can't fly over. They don't want to.
Yeah.
He was the first to report this. And sadly, an investigation showed that a mechanic had left a wipe rag inside the engine compartment, and the rag had gotten stuck in a carburetor. And that is why this famous, very, very famous Mexican pilot was taken down. And his file that I did find, it had some old newsreel footage, which is very strange. They have a lot of very old media here as part of whatever the ZDS thing is here. But they had real newsreel footage after the plane crash and footage of his funeral. Trey, there were thousands and thousands of people lined up to show their respects to this guy. He has an international airport named after him. There are multiple schools, baseball fields, and he was the first to report anomalies here. I don't know why. Hey, look, they wanted me to research. I'm going a little too deep.
No, I don't think that there's such thing as too deep in this case. Like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I think that's the reason that you're here and you're looking into these cases. It's because you're the type of person to go, quote unquote, too far into these cases. I am brand new to all of these instances. This is really all new to me. I've never heard of this pilot before, and that he had thousands of people attend his funeral, and yet we don't even know about his name in the States or anything is crazy. I think this is a good thing that you're disseminating this information here.
Yeah, I think there might be a little more to it. I don't know why I do. Maybe we'll find out later.
There has to be.
It was just watching these old newsreels is real interesting. I hope there's more of these, but seeing just like the orderly, thousands of people just orderly standing there in the 30s. It's like, this was just a funeral, but the way that people just were very much more polite, like in the 1930s, as compared to like what you can imagine now.
I don't know
some mob.
What happens at funerals around your area today?
I've never been to a funeral with that. Have you ever seen a huge funeral with like
Not with
thousands of people lined up?
But I can only imagine that people are gonna try to be respectful during a funeral. I guess there are some that get out of control and turn more into parties than anything. And to be honest, that's kind of how I hope I go out. I want a riot. I want a giant party that just goes out of control.
Yeah, well, this wasn't out of control. They had like a wreath that was like 3 stories high.
Whoa.
It was insane.
Oh, good.
This is why these reports were taken seriously at one point.
Yeah.
Because of him. But it was more than just radio transmission affecting planes and stuff. What else is there out there, Drea? I know you had to do some research too.
Yeah, I what I found was there were definitely reports of people seeing weird things in the area, but it sounds like it was afterwards, after that all of that went down. And that's what's interesting is that you mention things just failing while they're flying over the area. We all know that the U.S. Air Force Base usually in desert areas, they do a lot of experiments and testing out, rockets and whatnot. And so there was the Athena rocket. There was more than one Athena rocket that have been like missiles and stuff that we're working on in the United States. But one in particular was launched from a U.S. Air Force base in Green River, Utah. And this was the reason that this one was launched was for a scientific mission to study the upper atmosphere. Why they chose this particular area of the country to launch it in, I think it was just for reasons of solitude, that there just weren't a lot of big cities around. But it was supposed to come down near White Sands, New Mexico. And I'm reading here, it says, instead it went wildly astray and at 2 a.m. crashed in the heart of this area that is now known as the Zone of Silence. And that's just kind of a crazy coincidence that it would just down itself. Like at that time, there was no real reason, and it took them a while to find the wreckage and to bring the wreckage back and look over it.
See, this is the event. This is the event, I believe, that really, beyond Francisco and his reports, this definitely, whatever happened here with this missile, and I know there was a little bit of activity that happened here. They built an airstrip to find it. It took them a while to find it, too. They had to, it was an entire operation because, as we said, a lot of things don't work, which brings some credence to that. The fact that the military, it took them a long time to find this missile.
Oh,
and of
3
all the
weeks,
places, of all the places, this thing's going from White Sands to another place in the United States to go, what was it? Oh, it's almost 600 miles off course. And of all the places to land here,
it goes super south. I mean, you can see easily on a map of the United States how close New Mexico is to Utah. There's no reason that it should have been suddenly just diverted south all the way here. It doesn't make sense. And that, I think that's why the government kept it very quiet. It was kind of like a just don't ask any questions. Yeah, sure. As they do. Yeah. It makes sense. I'm almost afraid of how much we're allowed to say here because I don't want anything coming after us.
Well, I think most of this is on record, and I need to observe some of the parts of this, and one of it is that this is supposed to be like an atmospheric missile. It's always like weather is like always the excuse for something that you shouldn't be doing. Like, no, the weather balloon is swamp gas. It's all this like it's just no. We're just doing something to help meteorologists. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, who knows what this actually was at the time that this happened? This happened in 1970, correct?
Yes. I believe it was right before that too. This meteorite fell into around this area in the same region. It was 1969. And that is often kind of looked to as a correlation to what created this kind of disturbance. They're thinking it's a magnetic disturbance, right?
Yeah, because they think it's a beyond radio and compass failure. The Zona is also known for being just this magnet for meteorite crashes. And the most famous ones, the one you're talking about, is the Alamende meteorite. And look, there's a lot of research on this. It happens to be the largest carbonaceous chondrite ever found on Earth. And the fireball was witnessed on February 8th, 1969, falling over the Mexican state of Chihuahua. And after it broke up in the atmosphere, an extensive search for pieces was conducted, and over 2 tons of meteorite were recovered. And it is described as, quote, the best studied meteorite in history. This thing has like abundant, large calcium, aluminum, rich inclusions, and that is among the oldest objects formed in the solar system. And this is interesting that this is the kind of thing where, right before this missile is drawn in, a year before, this most studied meteorite ever is just drawn into this one place. And looking around here, it kind of looks like a little bit like the moon, from where we are at least, that it does look like meteorites just have their way around here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you look at all the craters on the moon. Luckily, the moon it seems like it's taking a lot of hits for us. It's bound to hit Earth several million times. Like, we don't know. We can never really keep track of how many really land on uninhabited parts of the Earth. But this was like significantly different because, like you said, of all of the composites that were found in it, that especially the magnetic sort, that seems to be what's really thrown this whole region off kilter.
And I have a feeling that this has been known about for a lot longer than the things that are easily found and reported on. I've even found things about weird UFO groups in like the 1930s, or like alien channelers or something. Some kind of group was drawn here in the 1930s because they believed this was a very special place. There's a lot of very special, areas here. There are mountains that do look like Devil's Mountain, that if you are to get here, there is a very specific mountain that you can see in the distance. And if you keep it to one side of you, you will get yourself here. It is very flat, like Devil's Mountain. It's very interesting. And one of the reasons that a lot more is known now about Zona Del Silencio is because of this guy. I think he might be a recurring character. There's a guy named Jamie. And Jamie is it Jaime?
I think it might be, it's more likely to be Jaime. I've seen the spelling both ways, so I wasn't sure myself. Like, even while researching within the same document, it will be spelled both ways. I'm going to say it's probably Jaime.
Let's just stick with Jaime. So Jaime is a very interesting character in this. So when that rocket crashes in 1970, for some reason, the U.S. government chooses a local man named Jaime to be the security guard to just watch over the thing. Once they find this very important missile of theirs, they're building an airstrip to like do all this stuff here. They're leaving the security up to just one local man. And he is supposedly, now, I have no idea. We might see if he is still around or a relative is around, but supposedly he is the one he kind of let the word out a little more about what is going on around here. And it was his plan to bring attention to the area. And it did work because a lot of curiosity seekers, they do make the long trek out here to experience for themselves the wonder and the mystery of the Zona del Silencio. And the locals, Drea, the locals even have a name for those who venture out here. They call them zoneros. That's neat, huh?
Yeah, no, I think that's neat. I have to wonder if it's almost derogatory in like, oh, here come these people who just want to sniff around about this area. Like, is it a good thing or a bad thing to be called zoneros?
I don't know. I wouldn't consider us zoneros. So if it is a bad thing,
no, this is a little bit different. Yeah. We we'll
have to ask somebody. It is very quiet out here. But we are here on business. So we are not zoneros. We are not just letting anyone know. We are not just rolling in here as zoneros. And an interesting tidbit I found out about the locals is that when these zoneros tell them that they didn't experience anything strange, the residents have to explain to them that the zona is not a static location, that the zona moves around this part of these 3 states. And that, which I was happy to learn that we don't have to come to the same place every time for these recordings.
But that's
this first one
also a little disconcerting. That's a little worrying to me.
Well, what? No, well, I think it would be more boring
that it moves.
Oh, that it moves. Well,
that's kind of scary to me. But because I mean, like, what moves it? That's that brings up so many questions. And then how are we going to find it every time if if it disrupts all our compasses? We'll figure it out.
Well, I kind of look at it as it seems to tie in with so much other paranormal stuff. If the idea that one, this might move around, that there are strange things involved with here. We know there are weird portals, but we've heard stories of psychic Sasquatches and Mothman, and who knows what is popping. If Fresno night crawlers are popping out of portals, it would make more sense than that they're just walking around California in Fresno. It would make more sense that some strange portals pop up and things happen. Maybe this is just, this is definitely a magnet for all kind of strangeness. So the fact that this does move around, it does seem like something in an area where there would be a lot of cryptid sightings, where they happen in different parts of it, a very desolate area.
True.
And I can't find a more desolate area than this.
It's very Bermuda Triangle, Bridgewater Triangle. This is the version of it located in the middle of a desert for once, as opposed to...
Yeah, how exciting, right?
Which, it makes sense when you think about at least the location of, say, Area 51, although that was planned because of its desolate location, for it to be in the middle of nowhere was intentional. This, I feel, is more of a natural occurrence that just so happens to be in a desolate area. It
seems like more of a surprise to pretty much anyone involved.
Yeah.
I was definitely surprised to be contacted to be part of this. I think the U.S. military was really surprised that their missile went way out of the way. I think space was surprised. Meteors just want to go to this one place.
The entirety of space was very surprised. Yeah.
They
all
were shocked.
Of the star systems.
They were all talking. It was amazing. And speaking of amazing, one of the more amazing things to happen here was when the National Enquirer did a report on the Zona. Wow, the National Enquirer. And they made a lot of outlandish claims about what is going on here. And a lot of it is what we have spoken about already, the UFOs, the electronic failures, the magnetic anomalies, even the strange mutated flora and fauna. But they even went further with that. And the National Enquirer claimed that there were three-headed sheep that could be found roaming around here, and even deformed humanoids and creatures. What do you think?
Oh, wow. Okay, that scares me. I mean, I would be frightened enough to find a three-headed sheep. I would have been frightened enough to encounter that strange seal creature that came out of Mel's hole that had one eye. Like, anything that's just not normal will definitely, I won't say scare me like I'm going to run away, but
I feel good though. Look, we're doing this for, the Zona Del Silencio. They've given us a little bit of equipment. Now, for some reason, we have been sent with equipment. We do have recorders. I don't know. Nothing is working that I have with me. But one thing I do have, if we see one of these things, I'm just going to be like, all right, you heard? They gave you your blaster.
Yeah.
You gave you your blaster, right? You see it?
Yeah. I didn't know I was allowed to use this. Well, that was a mistake.
Look, if I see this humanoid or three-headed man coming or sheep or whatever, I'm just going, I hope we can shoot out here.
I think it'll be fine. I can't imagine anybody else getting hurt. There's nobody out here. So, oh God, now I'm a lot more scared about this. Like, I was feeling okay about this whole thing before. We're just going to be researching and discussing and whatnot. But now, now I'm kind of freaking out.
Well, I'll put it up. Look, it's fine. The deformed humanoids are definitely not around here. There's no three-headed sheep that we've seen so far. And I know National Enquirer, that is not the most reputable news source, but who knows? Wasn't that in the Men in Black movie? Wasn't that the conceit in that the National Enquirer was hiding real stories amongst the...
It's actually the best place to look because nobody pays attention to them. Nobody gives it any credit. That's kind of what you're looking for. That's the ideal situation, right? When you're researching something incredible and unreal, you don't want hordes of people breathing over your neck and scrambling over you.
Yeah, well, there was maybe they're sprinkling some kind of truth in there, whether it be the radio transmissions not working or the mutated humanoids and three-headed goats that we might see around here. But one thing I wanted to touch on before we head back was the question of how are we being recorded here? This is the Zona Del Silencio. This doesn't really make sense. And it's kind of something I was wondering about as well, seeing that apparently nothing else works here. But I have a theory about that. All right? You ready?
Yeah.
All right, strap in for this. So while I'm getting settled in earlier at the HQ, I had to move my desk. It was way too close to the wall. I need a little bit of leg room for research. And while I'm doing that, I noticed a file tucked under the desk. And Drea, have you ever heard of something called Acoustic Kitty?
Oh my God. I that is very familiar in the back of my mind. I think I remember wanting to call a band that at some point. I remember that. It was some kind of government operation.
Well, so what I found is that Acoustic Kitty was a CIA project launched by the Central Intelligence Agency Directorate of Science and Technology. And in the 1960s, it intended to use cats to spy on the Kremlin and Soviet embassies. In an hour-long procedure, a veterinary surgeon implanted a microphone in the cat's ear canal, a small radio transmitter at the base of its skull, and a thin wire into its fur. And this would allow the cat to innocuously record and transmit sounds from its surroundings. But due to problems with distraction, the cat's sense of hunger had to be addressed in another operation. This poor cat of Acoustic Kitty.
I remember hearing about it. I don't know how I didn't know that that's exactly what they were doing. But how could they not account for a cat wandering off? And I've had several cats in my life, and I know it's very hard to get them to do what you want them to do.
Well, maybe this wasn't so much about the cats as maybe the technology. And it was very expensive. Victor Marchetti, a former CIA officer, said Project Acoustic Kitty cost about $20 million to work on. The first Acoustic Kitty mission was to eavesdrop on two men in a park outside the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. And the cat was released nearby. Drea, Acoustic Kitty. He's out there. He's going to listen to some Russians. He's going to find out some stuff. He's on his way. But he was hit and allegedly killed by a taxi almost immediately.
Oh, no. Oh, geez. First of all, what a waste of money. Second of all, poor cat. No, the other way around. I definitely feel sad for the cat, but dang, that's an expensive cat to get killed by traffic.
I think we could rebuild him stronger,
better.
Faster. More human and in the desert. Yeah, there's not a lot of taxis out here. So this is a little theory I'm working on. Maybe Acoustic Kitty technology is advanced a little more.
Acoustic cactus.
Well, supposedly the project was canceled in 1967 after this tragic taxi Acoustic Kitty accident. And a closing memorandum said that the CIA researchers believed that they could train cats to move short distances, but that, quote, the environmental and security factors in using this technique in a real foreign situation force us to conclude that for our purposes, it would not be practical.
Very good decision on their part. You cannot control cats that well.
But there are other people you can. You can give them certain bones that they can go play in the Zona Del Silencio, and they have to. They could be called research agents. Who knows? I know I was given a screening when I arrived, so maybe there's a recording device in here. It's just a theory.
There must be, and like I said, I am more than happy to wear the label of research agent because agent sounds so cool, and I've never gotten that much of a title in any of my jobs, so I'm leaning into it. I am super excited about this opportunity.
Oh, same here. Everyone's been really nice here. And I see our time is getting short here, so we're going to start heading back. And while we do, I'm going to give my little final thoughts. Disseminating this research for me, it's led me to believe that there is indeed something to this area. I believe this to be a very special area of the world and is not fully understood yet. And I'm excited to see where this research endeavor leads. What about you, Drea?
Definitely. I mean, I have at this point more questions than anything, but I mean, it's been hard enough for me to get a job lately, so I'm more than happy to accept this, and I feel like we're safe. I'm very interested in the topic and all these things out here. I love the desert. I'm just excited to see what happens, and I think this is a good thing.
Same here. I'm excited to see what our first case is going to be. And I think that's it. They told me to use this, that we will get a signal once we are out. I think we were almost out. I'm getting a signal. Until next time.
Nunca llegarán allí.
Zona Del Silencio is underwritten by ZDS Inc., ZDS R&D, and the Zona Del Silencio Media Outreach Department. If you have a case that requires research, we can be contacted through Zona Del Silencio Podcast at gmail.com, at Zona Del Podcast on Twitter, and Zona Del Silencio on Instagram. ZDS. Research, observe, disseminate.